Hey guys, I can show you how to time travel. Why don't you show up? I've known Guillaume for years. We had the same metaphysics class back at university, and he was the one that kept my attention away from the lecturer. He was always the clown, and he always had crazy ideas. I thought he was joking when he said he found a piece of ripped out notebook paper that allows you to look into the future. He said, of all things, he found it in an old copy of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the university library. I don't remember the exact words Kiami said, but he sounded incredibly excited. The next day, he passed me the slightly yellow paper in a lecture. I remember that the topic was whether or not objects exist through time. It was obviously ripped out of a normal notebook. There were the usual punch holes on the left, and the lower part of the page was ripped off. At the top, in capital letters, was the sentence, "You can travel through time." The rest of the page was filled with small, tidy block letters, but someone had made the effort to write it all in mirror writing. It was somewhat confusing, but still possible to read. There were a few sentences that sounded like they were advertising time travel, and below a series of instructions on how to achieve it. I don't remember the details, but the gist was this. You were supposed to make a mix of several powders and then find a strong light source in an otherwise dark area and carefully draw a line where your shadow fell. In the center of it, there were supposed to be two arrows, not unlike the recycling symbol I've seen in some countries. Two arrows arranged in a circle and each pointing towards the end of the other arrow. Then I think you were meant to light the whole thing on fire and keep your shadow within the lines. There was no information on what exactly was supposed to happen. All it said that it will make you understand time and allow you to travel through it. I think at the bottom of the page, where the paper was ripped off, was the beginning of a sentence, and the other part was ripped away. It started with "make sure the moon," and that was it. Yami told me he had looked for the other part, but he wasn't able to find it in the Hitchhiker's Guide or on the shelf where he found the book. Yami wanted to try the experiment on the same day, and he had already arranged most of the ingredients. I remember salt and powdered white chalk, and there were a few other things. But the one thing he wasn't able to get was magnesium. We tried to convince Dakota, a chemist friend of ours, to steal magnesium for us, but she refused and we couldn't find another way. The mix Gami had made ended in the trash, and I thought the yellow paper ended there too. I thought that note was gone. Until 2 weeks ago when Gami texted me. It was years that I last spoke to him, and this sentence only contained two words. Guess what? I gave him a call and Kiami asked me the same question. I guessed that he was engaged. He laughed and asked me whether I remembered the note, which I didn't until he said that he meant time travel instructions. Kiami found a note in one of his old notebooks and wanted to give it another try. I laughed. I thought he was joking, and we ended up talking for nearly an hour about the good old times. Then I told him about my awesome sounding but horribly boring job, and Guillaume told me about his recent breakup. We met up on Friday night, had a great laugh, and just before we said goodbye, Guillaume said that he had all the materials ready and was going to try time travel that night. I was too tired for his jokes, and like an old man in a young man's body, went home instead. In the morning, I had several messages from Guillaume. 12:14 a.m. Gonna try it now. See you in the future, mate. 12:51. Burned like hell, but not much else happened. Seems like it's still the same day. Damn, I want to see whether my wife will be hot. 1:09 a.m. Whoa! Dude, I think the fumes got to me. My shadow seems strange. 1:14. Dude, my shadow moves faster than I do. 1:30. Listen, this is really freaky. I feel completely sober and I can touch my nose and everything, but my shadow is still strange. It looks as if it's predicting my movements. 1:58. Okay, I think I'm nuts. My shadow just grabbed a glass off the table long before I did, and then got up. God, I'm serious. My shadow moves as if I got up and took a few steps. It literally left my feet and was a few steps away until I followed. 2:04 a.m. Fuck, man. It's not predicting my movements, it makes me do things. 2:08. Dude, really, I can't do anything but what the shadow does. I'm not joking. This thing works. This thing fucking works. 2 missed calls. 2:16. Can't reach you, call me, man. 2:22. My shadow just went to bed. I see it lying there. I'm still standing in the doorway, but my shadow is already in bed. I can't stop my feet from moving. 8:40. 1 missed call. My shadow is not here. I don't have a fucking shadow. Fuck, man, this is scary. Call me. 9:09. Dude, my shadow was waiting in the shower. I'm not joking. It left the room when I stepped inside, but I couldn't follow it. Now I'm in the kitchen and my shadow is moving at the counter. I think it's making sandwiches. 9:20. You should try time travel too, it's awesome. 9:28. 1 missed call. I didn't want to write that. I wrote that to several people. I didn't want to. Don't fucking do it, man. Help me. 9:30. It just left the house. It took something out of its pocket and threw it on the table. I think it was the phone. Please. I tried to call Guillermo, but he didn't answer his phone. I only reached him at night. And he behaved normal and said that he was fine and that he was just joking in the morning. We talked for a while and everything really seemed fine. There were some erratic sounds in his voice, some occasional cracks as if he was interrupting himself. But he said it was just a rough throat. I wasn't sure what to make of Guillermo's behavior. It was just 2 days ago before April the 1st and I didn't put it past him to play an elaborate prank on an old friend. On Sunday I texted Gammy again, but he didn't reply. And on April the 1st I was proven right. He sent me a bunch of messages, one after the other. 11:03 a.m. Call me. 11:03. I need to show you something. 11:04. You won't regret it. 11:05. I can show you how to do time travel. Call me. 11:05. This is awesome, man. Call me, or better even, come over. At 11:06, Guillermo called me. I didn't see his messages until after the phone conversation. But the conversation was nearly the same as his messages. He kept repeating that he had traveled in time and that he wanted to show me how to do it. Come over, Guillermo said again and again. You really need to try this. Guillermo seemed disappointed, nearly angry when I told him that I didn't have time to come over. I knew it would take me at least an hour to get to his house, and I already had plans with my girlfriend for the night. I promised Guillermo to meet up the next day. After our phone conversation, I straightaway got another message. Come over. I can show you how to time travel. He sent the same message 3 more times during the evening. When he sent the fourth message, I put my phone on silent. In the morning, I had 2 mailbox messages from Giami. The first was from around 11 p.m. and was very short. Come over. I can show you how to time travel. The second was from around 3 a.m. and this message Giami's voice sounded hoarse. Come over. You can travel through time. You need to try this. I can show you how to time travel. Come over. You can travel through time. You need to try this. I can show you how to time travel. Come over. You can travel through time. You need to try this. I can show you how to time travel. Come. Giami's voice paused for a moment and then he screamed, "Help!" and the message ended. I tried to call Giami when I heard his messages, but his phone was dead. I checked my email and finally Facebook. His face was filled with several people asking Giami to stop spamming them, and one saying that he must have a spam bot in his email. Then I saw his last status, from 1 a.m. the same morning. I can show you how to time travel. It had about 40 likes and several comments. The first were asking Giami for a secret, but the latter comments were all asking Giami to stop spamming their inboxes. Throughout the night, he had sent me 14 messages, nearly all identical, except that 2 of them had spelling errors. They all said the same thing. I can show you how to time travel. I wrote back asking him to stop and tried again to call Giami, but his phone was still dead. The next day, I was unable to get in touch with him. Text messages, phone, email, Facebook, but Giami didn't respond. I wasn't sure whether Giami was still able for our evening meetup. Still, right after work, I drove over to his place. And I hadn't been there in years and got lost on the way. My mobile phone finally led me in the right direction. Just then, when I was about 5 minutes away from his house, I got another message from Giami. When you come over, I can show you how to time travel. Giami's house looked strange. All the curtains were drawn and his car was parked half on the street and half on the front of his lawn. I stopped my car in front of his garage. Before I was even able to get out of the car, Giami came running out the front door. He had a wide grin on his pale face. "Come in," he shouted. "Quick, quick, come in." He grabbed my arm and pulled me away before I was even able to lock the car. "What's wrong with you?" I asked. Everything is great," Giami said. "I can show you how to time travel." I played along with his joke. I felt guilty that he had it planned for April Fools and was sad that I hadn't been there. The moment I stepped inside the living room, I knew I was wrong. The smell of burnt plastic hurt my lungs and made me cough. Come in," said Giami. The curtains on the back windows were drawn too and the furniture was pushed towards the walls. Only one large floor lamp was lighting the room from the direction of the kitchen. On the wooden floor in the center of the living room were several plastic sheets. Giami pulled me towards one of the 2 plastic sheets lying flat on the floor, a heap of grayish powder at the end near me. 2 more plastic sheets were crumbled in the corner of the room. I noticed they were a darker color. "Stay still," said Giami, while he placed me at one end of the plastic sheet. He smiled when he grabbed a handful of white powder and kneeled down. "Stay still," he said again. "I will show you how to time travel." It took me a moment to realize the single floor lamp behind me, to see my shadow placed perfectly on the sheet. Giami moved quickly and placed a thin line of grey powder around the edges of my shadow. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Time travel," he said. And Gammy reached my head, I had my first realization. Gammy was using his left hand. He had always been right-handed, but he was using his left hand to place the powder. The grin on Gammy's face began to grow when he finished my head. He grabbed another handful of powder and moved over to the other side of the sheet to outline the outer side of my shadow. The moment Gammy kneeled down on the other side, I had my second realization. Gammy didn't have a shadow. I stepped backwards. My shadow grew. Gammy stopped distributing powder and looked at me. His grin was gone. "Stay still," he said. "Stop it," and I said. "I can show you how to time travel," he said. "You have to time travel." I took 2 steps towards the front door. Gammy got up, the powder still in his hand. "You have to time travel," he said. Gammy took a step towards me. I took a few steps towards the front door. Gammy quickly followed me. I took another step, then began to run. Gammy was closely behind me. "Time travel!" he screamed. I pulled the front door open. Gammy tried to grab my arm. I pulled it away and ran out the door. He froze for a moment. Then he ran after me. "Time travel!" he screamed. "I can show you how to time travel." I pulled my car door open, leapt inside, and slammed the door shut. I just managed to lock the door before Gammy pulled the handle. Gammy grimaced and stepped backwards. I pressed the key in the ignition, turned it. Outside, Gammy threw his grey powder on the floor and pulled something out of his pocket. Just when I began to pull backwards, he lit a match. "I will show you how to time travel," he screamed. The car moved away from Gammy's garage just when the powder began to burn. Only when I got on the street I realized that the fire was just right next to where my car had been. Gammy hadn't tried to throw the powder on my car. He had thrown it on the car's shadow. "Time travel!" screamed Gammy while I pulled away. On the drive home, I convinced myself that it was all just a prank. When I got home, I was half expecting to find a video of myself online. Instead, I realized that I couldn't access Gammy's Facebook page anymore. I still can't. I still can't access his page, and I can't reach him. I thought about calling the police or maybe social services or somebody else that deals with mental problems. But late that night, I got another text message from a mutual friend of ours from university. It was Dakota, our chemist friend. And since then she has sent me 30 more messages. They say all exactly the same thing. "Come over, and I can show you how to time travel."